Thanks, INCEPTION, for doing this. Here to tell our story, our journey which started in a small kitchen. My wife's Swasni's small kitchen, which was literally her Amma's kitchen. That's where our journey started. From there to where we are today, arguably India's largest new age health food brand. It's been quite the ride. It's something that we are quite proud of. We are proud of it because we believe that we have pushed even the largest CPG companies to up their game when it comes to packaging. Got them a little bit interested in health food as a segment. Because we think that our work helps encourage younger brands to make healthier food. And that's part of our mission. And that's why I'm here. We believe food is integral to our existence, right? I think about food all the time, and not just because of work. And what better thing to do than to get people to eat a little bit healthier? I love my ice cream too. Believe me, I had 3 scoops of ice cream yesterday. But even small changes in habits, even getting someone to eat a little bit better goes a long way to look at the impact it makes the health of a country, quite literally. This road, this journey has been anything but easy. It's been extremely challenging. I cannot tell you about how many times we have been told, India mein health nahi bikta hai. India mein health nahi bikta hai. Over and over and over again. Yet, here we are. From having every single retailer except 2 tell us that we cannot list your products, from going to certain corporate offices, standing there ourselves the whole day and only selling 2 bars, from having only GNB and Namdhari listing us, to where we are today. It's been an incredibly challenging journey. From there to, this is something a friend of ours shared recently. It's a presentation, a case study that was there at Cannes a couple of weeks ago, where yoga bar was used as an example in a little showcase about brands that are at the frontier of innovation, not just in India, but globally. And that is our aspiration. It's audacious, it's stupid, it's ignorant, perhaps arrogant. But we were told all of those same things earlier too, when we started our journey. If you think about it, if it is not people in this room, leaders of the industry, if we don't believe that we need to do work that is globally respected, then who will? And I believe that's what we need to strive. That's what we need to strive for our country. And I believe our time has come. It was so heartwarming. I think Nelson yesterday said, we don't want to just be the most trusted airline in India. We want to be the most trusted airline, period. And that's what I think the new India of today wants to strive. Marketing, brand, business, everything. And that is an audacious goal perhaps, right? Might call me stupid, but that's how I think we all need to start talking, thinking, and doing more. We did many things wrong in this journey. We kept trying, we fell hard down, face flat, many times. But we would always get back up, incremental small steps. Could write a book on all the mistakes we made. But there are few things that we did right. Some of them by luck, and as I said, some of them by falling hard down on the floor, face down, and getting back up. The first thing that we got right and again, a lot of this is retrospect. If I were to look at this and talk about it, when we started building the brand, we were absolutely clueless. That's just the truth of it. We had we had read a few chapters in some books. We couldn't afford any branding agencies. So that was definitely out of the question. And frankly, we would have been far too overwhelmed if we were to do and talk and do about all the things that goes into creating a brand of a certain caliber. We took it one step at a time. And of course, the first thing that you have to do is talk about the branding. We happened to stumble upon the word yoga bar. And it was quite lucky, to be very honest. It felt naturally right to us. And we believe it's been a very critical part of our success, because what this enabled us to do is sell health without selling health. We didn't know these things very deeply the way we know it today, but selling health without selling health is a thing that young entrepreneurs often don't know. One of the biggest mistakes we can often make is think inside out. And I wouldn't lie, we didn't think and talk about things like a health bar, just call it that. But calling it yoga bar gave us a certain perspective. It just felt nice. It was also nice because we were part of the TG back then. So in some ways we had started out to build a brand for us, because the only thing that we knew completely decisively is that we want to build nutrition first products. We knew that we want to build clean label products. We knew that we didn't want to use artificial preservatives, more in protein, more fiber, lesser in carbs, definitely no sugar or less sugar. That's the only thing that we knew, and that's been fairly consistent as to what is it that we had set out to achieve. But the brand name, many of these things we figured out over time. And the yoga, when we decided what the brand name is, it really helped us define many other aspects of what the brand is going to look like. At that point, we didn't know what brand tonality, voice, writing style of copy, none of these things, brand key, like these things were completely alien to us. But we did somewhat get lucky, and we believe it's the most prized asset that we have today, just the brand. But of course, that's me. After the brand name, the next obvious thing to do is packaging. And very early on, one of our salespeople told us that your packaging has to be the silent salesperson on the shelf. Your packaging has to be the silent salesperson on the shelf. It was absolutely great advice. We spend too much time on packaging. We are very particular about it. To this date, I get involved in this myself, because when we started out, we didn't have marketing budgets, we didn't have sales budgets. So how do you get people to pick this up? And the only thing we could do to get that right was to focus on our packaging. We used the core tenets of what we thought of the yoga bar brand name, and we tried to extend that personality to our salesperson. And what does that look like? That looks like a person who enjoys yoga, and yoga is not just about exercise. Yoga is so much more than that. Yoga is a way of living. Yoga is about how you speak. Yoga is about how you conduct yourself in public, in private. Yoga is about discipline. And that's what the brand is about. And we try to put that out in different ways. We are not militant about food. We are casual. We are personal. We try to advise, not like a mother, like a friend. We try to help you be a little bit better version of yourself because that's what we are trying to do. We say things like one step to start a journey. We say things like look in the mirror. The most beautiful person is you. That is a personality that we could only derive because we locked down on what yoga means for us, what yoga means for the brand, and what we want the brand to be. Again, if I were to go back in time, it would have been terribly difficult for us to think like that, but because packaging is extremely constrained, it helped us define what the brand story is going to look like, one step at a time. My mom, when I was growing up, for about 10 years, 15 years, right, she would tell me to eat palak every day. I am sure many of you do that to your kids. Maybe not palak, I hope. Every day is a bit difficult. But what happened eventually, and I'm sure that happens with the kids too, is they don't listen, do they? And we have to understand as marketers that if my mom couldn't get me to change my eating habits, how can a 3-second Instagram ad do that? It just doesn't work. Telling people to eat healthy food just doesn't work. Scaring them just doesn't work. Please do emotion health somewhat, of course. But what really helps is selling health as a lifestyle. You latch on to health by making it part of identity. In fact, it will go beyond the product. You can make someone feel good about eating a bar. And it cannot be something that is very long term, it should be something about their identity, it is about something that they associate themselves with. And that is a journey that we have figured out over a period of time. But a part of it definitely comes from yoga. We are very clear that we don't want to be preachy, we don't want to be militant. Everyone has their own journey. We are here to help. And we believe a healthier lifestyle is a fun lifestyle, a cool lifestyle. There's vanity, of course, but inherently everyone knows that eating healthy is better. That's not what we talk about. We don't really sell health. We sell a lifestyle. And again, flowing back from yoga, all our communication is personal. All our communication is as relatable as we can make it out to be. We talk about putting a face at the back of our pack. We talk about the women who founded it. We talk about being homegrown. We take immense pride in that. We put a face to this brand. We are not a monolith. We are someone that we hope people can trust, and it's quite important in food because, well, we sell everything as healthy, right? The most important bit, and I think something that we deviated from how traditional yoga would have been talked about, is that we made it a joyful brand, but just not joyful in copy, but also joyful in color. Because yoga has been there for a very, very long time. However, we believe that everything needs to evolve and everything inherently changes its form and fashion. When you look at yoga, it took us, the Beatles in the 70s, to make yoga cool again in India. And over a period of time, the more we decided and thought about yoga and getting its accessibility to a certain form to the modern Indian, we felt that a colorful, fun way is a better way of doing the same to this audience. It does not have to be dull. It does not have to be boring. Yoga can be fun. Just because it is something your granddad also did does not mean that we cannot interpret it in a manner that is cool to the millennials, as cool to the Gen Zs, as everything changes this time. Now the whole thing about India में health नहीं taste बिकता है, I wouldn't say it's incorrect, right? Somewhat partly correct, somewhat partly wrong, and everything is a lot of grace. But India में taste बिकता है, हर जगह बिकता है. There is something that is very primal about hunger that gets your brain to send signals to the rest of your body to crave food. If you understand that well, right, if you latch onto some of these cues, you can sell virtually anything. And that's why we focus on making and trying to find that connection. When you look at photos like this, you want to have it. Just like the same way we always have space for that one last scoop of ice cream, as how you might be full. It's not about what the body needs, but it's about what the heart wants. It's what's about the brain telling you. So we are always focused on making food look good. We have always focused on making health look good. And the truth is that good ingredients always taste better. It might not taste as good as an ice cream, but that's what we want. If you look at it, 70-80% of your meals are what dal, chawal, roti, sabji. The idea is to taste as good, and because of the ingredients that we use, you can make products which are tasty. You don't have to put artificial preservatives in food. So good products will always taste good. And that is something that is hygiene in our industry. I am not saying that don't make products which taste good. Right? You have to have products which taste good. Marketing can get you attention, it can get you pick up, it can get you somewhat attention if you focus on building it as an identity. But the products are hygiene, and that is always something to be done. That being said, if we talk about spinach and calcium and potassium, it can harm enough people. There's a good amount of research on this. And does gruel work as a concept? Absolutely. Again, a lot of research. We have A/B tested the hell out of this. What works when you're selling food is make it look appetizing, make it look good, cue in the hunger, trigger that impulse purchase. And in today's world, when you can order things from an app, from an Instagram ad at 12 in the night, this thing works. The other thing that we did was, early on, of course, we focused a lot on social media. But one of the things of being early on this platform gave us certain very unique insights, right? The first bit here is we focused on building more content around yoga. We focused on building personalized content. We not personalized, personal content, relatable content. Try to keep health simple. Now I know there's a lot of text in one of these reels, but that's also deliberate because you have to understand the platform in which you are selling. The reason there's a lot of text is so that if the content is engaging enough, but yet someone wants to read more, he would play that video multiple times, which creates more engagement, which the algorithms then go out to say will give you more reach. What this really helped us understand, being present in many of these social media channels, right, is the amount of brand love that we are getting. We were often, it's difficult to really know if things are in the right direction or not. It's difficult to really know, have you been successful in making a cool brand? It's difficult to know if this whole pitch of making of pitching health as a lifestyle is working or not. But when you start getting people reposting things on not just a story, stories weren't even there back then, on their feed of using yoga bar to showcase something cool and making health as part of their identity. When people started posting about it, and then we realized that we have something special going on. Which is when we decided that we want to scale this business. We were just selling yoga bars. This is an example of how we didn't really know everything that about building a brand when we started. We would not have called it yoga bar. We thought maybe the brand would limit us into the categories that we can go into. Because we were only selling protein bars. Protein bars, people didn't even know the category existed right back then. There were a lot of confusion, we did not know what is it that we can do to just push bars to get there. We knew that even just putting in money behind it would not necessarily create that category. And how do you scale this mission of getting people to eat better food? That's when we decided we are going to try to scale this brand up into more categories. We'll enter more categories. And the reason we didn't do it earlier, because we were afraid of diluting the brand about doing too many things together. So we were very clear about defining a product philosophy, about defining a brand philosophy, what is it that we will do, which are the categories that we would enter. And our framework was, whatever we do, the market size should be significant. We didn't want to make the same mistake that we made with just selling protein bars. We believe that whichever category we are in, if we want to be leaders, at least number 2 or number 3, if not number 1. That was the second one part. We believe it needs to be a category where there is at least a certain amount of health in it. It goes without saying that we need to be in a category where, of course, we are making nutrition. It is possible to make nutrition-first products. And most importantly, we believed when we are launching something, it needs to work out for all channels. Not just online, not just offline, but not just modern trade, not just general trade. It needs to be something that all of India is looking for. There are many large categories which might just be online only, which might just be GT only. We wanted to operate in categories which operate everywhere. We wanted to build for all of India. We wanted to make sure that everything we do is always targeted towards larger audiences which work offline, which meant that the price points will also have to be of a certain type. And we also wanted market share because there are several large categories where we felt that if we could get revenues in, but if you are not having enough market share, it didn't mean anything for us. Those were the fundamentals that we decided to embark our journey on when we said, okay, let's scale this. The second thing that really helped us scale our business was going digital first. Now, we are often called as a DTC or a D2C brand. We are not. Half our sales come from offline businesses, the other half comes from online businesses. Of the half which comes from offline businesses, 50% of it is general trade, and the other 50% is empty, modern trade. And that is something that will always be. As I said, that's what we intend to be if we want us to be successful in our mission to sell to a wider audience, to sell health, make the country eat better, we have to, of course, focus on offline. But being digital first is different from being D2C. I think Shobhadeep said it very well the first day. D2C in itself can be thought of just as a sales channel. It's not a sales channel for us. We are digital first. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of operating. And I think we haven't really scratched the surface of what being digital first does. Being being digital first versus D2C, D2C is about sales. And in food, it's not going to make sense. It is just not going to make sense. I am a technologist myself. I have run a tech company. I have built products for millions of users. And I know very clearly going in when D2C was all the rage that the math for us as a brand to build it sustainably is never ever going to work out. To a fairly large extent, that's been validated, at least in food. There are cases where this can work, of course, absolutely. But those are high AOV products where the margins are different. Food, the margins are much tighter, and one has to be cognizant of this. But then what does being digital first mean? Right? Being digital first means asking yourself the question, what happens in a world where everything is done digitally? We have talked about it, I think, here with respect to marketing. But this is not just a marketing approach. This is an approach of how do you build a business from the ground up in certain cases. Will all businesses be digital first in the future? In my mind, it's inevitable. It's going to be a significant majority of all sales going to come. It's happened in many industries. Airlines are a great example. 20 years ago, you would not use a clear trip or a make my trip, you'd call an agent. Sales of mobile phones are another great example. And in certain places, sales teams have adopted to doing this digital first and they call it e-commerce. But are organizations fully there? I don't think so. Because we need to have a lot of courage to ask ourselves the question, how will we operate if everything goes digital? We talk about data, digital giving you data. We talk about digital changing the salience of channels. But digital first is an approach, it's an attitude. We still see companies trying to force fit their old ways of working to a digital first world. Right? You built a campaign which was originally meant for 1 year, and now you're talking about always on campaigns, but you're not refreshing your campaigns every month. That's the difference. That's the dichotomy I'm talking about. We are inherently, truly digital first, and what I would talk about is a much longer topic, of course, right? What I would love to talk about here is how do organizations become more digital first? It's a difficult question to answer. Of course, one of the things too that everyone knows here is agility. That's harder to do if you're a larger organization, so we won't talk about it. And every organization, whether digital or not, anyway want to inherently be more agile. But what we need to talk about is adapting things. Technology is a great disruptor. Every once in a while, one industry or the other is completely upended. It's a scary time, it's an exciting time because there are winners and there are losers. You've seen some of them come up. The ones who accept that they need to adapt, and I think that's the first step. You need to accept that we need to adapt. You need to be able to visualize the future, and I'm not talking about next year, I'm talking about 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, when everything is digital. We are still talking about, 20% spent on advertising as being digital. But how much time do people spend on mobile phones or OTTs, and do you have the courage to bring it down to 60% or bring it up to 60%? What does that mean for your organization? Can you convince people in your organization? Sure, you know about it. But where are people spending their time? Are they spending their time on Instagram, or are they spending their time on news channels? Those are real questions to ask. That is what I mean by adaptability. People here have worked in companies which have adapted over decades. But everyone does it. And I think that's the conversation here. Can you adapt to this new change? The other thing that I'd like to talk about, the other thing that we can do here is talk more about technology. Digital changes the pace of doing things. Of course, we're trying to be agile, but digital changes the pace of doing things. Earlier, we were just talking about social media, but LinkedIn marketing is so different from Instagram marketing, which is so different from Facebook marketing. We cannot just club them all together. Each of these can get quite technical if you really get down to understanding the algorithms. If you understand how Amazon does its search rankings, if you really understand how Google's SEO works, you have a significant competitive advantage in today's world. The advantage that you had earlier as a CPG FMCG company is distribution was a strong word. Of course, that's changed. And today it's only 5-10% of certain brands, right? But will that number go higher? Will that number be eventually more than 50%? I very, very strongly believe so. I'm not saying 100. Will newspapers die? Newspapers in print will die. I very strongly believe so. This happened to magazines to a certain extent. Newspapers will survive. The ones who adapt will survive. They will be all on digital. And many great companies have been able to do that. The question is, who is going to do this first? The other thing on the technology bit is we can hire younger people. Younger people are, if you look at the Facebooks of the world, if you look at the Googles of the world, you look at most other tech startups, right? They're all started by really young people. Hire them. I'm not saying go back to IIT and study technology again. No. I'm saying hire them. Believe in these people, have trust in these people. They are not just good with technology, but it will also help you with how digital adoption is happening in this country. Or of course, you could also hire a company like Yogabar, but that's a bit later. The next bit I'd like to talk about is, my time's almost up, is why ITC? There are two key reasons why we decided that we would end up getting acquired by a larger company. Number one was, of course, the math on the money for us as founders, for me and Swasti, made more sense. When you are when you are venture capital backed, there are certain risk, reward, and growth curves that you look into it. We were at a place where we had a journey that we could talk about putting it to IPO. How much money that would need to build an offline business with the right offline distribution, so that I can sell to the customers who are ordering from only Amazon today. We have customers from Chandrapur, Maharashtra and Champaran, Bihar. Like, how do I sell to these people? There is one guy who knows how to use Amazon, but I am not patient enough. I want to sell to him in a GT store as well. To build that distribution out would cost me 300 to 500 crores at least, and that math would mean that I would get diluted a lot today. So as a founder, that math didn't work out for us. And that's smart. The second bit is, ITC is a great organization. It's an organization that's thrived more than 100 years, right in the making. Extremely aggressive company. And they have the processes, they have the infrastructure to take our offline business and scale it, to push us one step closer towards our mission. And that was something that was quite obvious in our interactions with, frankly, any of the larger companies which were also interested in us. As marketers, we are enamored by stories. We love telling stories. And at IDC, the story that I get to tell is about building a brand that is going to outlive me. And that was a very difficult proposition to refuse. Thank you, everybody. I wish you a happy, joyful, and healthy day. Bye.
Thank you, Aditya. We request you to please remain on the stage while we thank